It's time for Third Calling, where we ask the question, what are you doing the rest of your life? Perhaps you've retired, your nest is empty, you're in a transition, or thinking about what to do and be in a new season of life. Richard and Leona Bergstrom are co-directors of Reignite and authors of the book Third Calling. They're here to challenge and encourage each of us to follow God's calling and live with purpose and passion for the rest of our lives.
And we do have Richard and Leona Bergstrom with us once again. Third Calling, what are you doing with the rest of your life? This is a radio feature kind of based on their book, looking at different principles. Hello once again, Bergstroms.
Hi, Mark.
Hi there.
Used to be on KCIS with a feature a few years back called Amazing Grace. You might remember them from that. And this is a little bit more of a high pointing of their new book. Actually, not a new book, been out 3 years now, you say, Third Calling. What are you doing with the rest of your life? We're looking at different principles here. And this week, what is principle number 5, Leona?
My favorite, one of my favorites, nurture creative thinking. Explore some new worlds. Take on some new enterprises. During Third Calling, you have the chance to unleash all this creativity that's in our brain and our mind and our soul. And it's important. Even social scientists say that we don't just get creative despite our aging, but actually, because of our aging, our brain changes or we're open to new opportunities. And it's really, really important to nurture that creativity because we have to see problems and challenges and opportunities in new creative ways sometimes. And so to creatively think through challenges and opportunities is awesome.
How do we do that? How do you renew your enthusiasm?
We have a favorite author. His name is Roger Oakes. He wrote a book called A Whack on the Side of the Head. And actually that just summarizes for us what it might take to think creatively. You just look at a problem and instead of looking at the same old solutions, you whack yourself on the side of the head and you unleash some creative thinking and new ways to look at things and ideas. It may be creative expressions that we're used to, like painting or writing or music or even cooking, all those kinds of things we think of. But the important principle is to be able to look at life and situations in new ways. Mm-hmm. A whack on the side of the head.
A whack on the head.
Yeah.
Well, then, Richard, can travel then be a whack on the side of the head?
Yeah.
Oh, it certainly can. We've had some great opportunities to travel on our own as well as with mission groups that we've taken into different countries and cultures, and each one of those, stretches us beyond our comfort zone. It exposes us to different ways of life, forces us to be dependent. We went with the Rick Steves guidebooks, and we're very dependent on the specific instructions as to how to get from one place to another. It opens our minds to new possibilities, and where we don't speak the language, we don't know how to calculate the currency, makes us very dependent on other people. And so we learn to ask the question like, do you speak English? And look for directions in that way. I love the quote by St. Augustine, who said, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page."
Yeah, that's kind of one of the main things I always think of in the third calling stage of your life is travel. If you can afford to travel, but I think everybody can at least get things together for a short-term missions trip.
Yeah. Yes, and if nothing else, they can watch travelogues or read books about travel and explore those new worlds in creative ways if they don't have the resources.
I spent some time in a mission organization, Youth with a Mission, a long time ago, and it was very eye-opening to me, just even as a young person, to find out that God is not an American, that there's so many different ways to worship God and different expressions, and that was a real eye-opener and opened my spirit up to many things. So at this stage in a lot of people's life, I can also highly recommend travel or even a short-term missions outreach. So how do we develop an entrepreneurial mindset regarding this?
Well, that's a great word, and I didn't discover my inner entrepreneur until I was in midlife because I thought I had to work for somebody else. And I began to think outside the box in terms of becoming my own employer. But essentially, people need to believe that they can be one, that they can do something unique or start something, launch something, write something, to believe that they have something to say to the world or something to contribute. And it may not be starting a new organization like we did in our midlife, but just to think about a new way of approaching their life and how to even generate revenue, perhaps, if they need that in later life.
Is this a bad time of life, though, to be taking a lot of risks?
Well, it can be, and many people are very security-minded. In financial planning, they advise you to put your investments in stocks with minimal risk.
Right.
And so it's not a time to take big risks for some, but at the same time, there are opportunities out there if we would risk certain things. Even you mentioned people taking a mission trip. That's a risk for them to branch out and experience a new culture. Life is full of risk, let's face it, and whether we initiate that risk or it comes to us.
Yeah. Well, some ways to figure out what you're doing with the rest of your life. Third Calling, the feature this week based on the book of the same name, and you can find out more details at thirdcalling.com. And Richard and Leona Bergstrom wrote that book, and they also do wonderful seminars based on this material. More details at their overall website, re-ignite.net. Back with more of the Bergstrom's wonderful information next time on Third Calling. What are you doing with the rest of your life here on KCIS?
You've been listening to Richard and Leona Bergstrom, directors of Reignite and authors of Third Calling. What are you doing the rest of your life? To learn more about discovering your purpose and following your calling, visit thirdcalling.com. You can order their book, as well as an accompanying study guide on Amazon or on the Third Calling website. You can also listen to this feature again at kcisradio.com.